Hello, this is our last video of the chapter, section 10.7. We're going to be talking about the equation of a circle, so as if you were going to graph it, for example with x and y. And so for that we're going to discover the equation first. If you take a look at our graph here, we have a circle with center at C, and then we have a point on the circle at A, and it looks like that point is at 3, 2. And so let's go ahead and find the distance between C and A, and hopefully you know by now that that will be our radius. And let's go ahead and do our distance formula. Of course, C is at 0, 0. And so we would have 3 minus 0 squared plus 2 minus 0 squared. Let's calculate both of those. 3 minus 0 is 3 squared plus 2 minus 0 is 2 squared. And we get the square root of 9 plus 4, and that would be the square root of 13. So according to our calculations, the radius of this circle is square root of 13. Now what we're going to do to find the equation is we're going to take any generic point on the circle, we're just going to call it B, and we'll just call that point x, y. And so the distance from the center to B should also be square root of 13. Well, if we do the distance from B to C, we can calculate x minus 0 squared plus y minus 0 squared. And we'll simplify. X minus 0 is x squared plus y minus 0 is y squared. And there we go. We have that distance. Now realizing, number 3, it says what is true about the distance of any point with respect to the center. Any point on the circle should be the same distance to the center. Therefore, number 4, point B is square root of 13 units away from the center. And so what we'll do is replace the square root of x squared plus y squared, that was our distance from B. We'll set that equal to square root of 13. Notice there's a square root on both sides. So to remove that square root, we can just square both sides, and it will say x squared plus y squared equals 13. I want you to notice what the 13 represents. It's not exactly the radius, because our radius was the square root of 13, and so the way we got rid of the square root was we squared it. So this will always be r squared. So the equation of the circle, if the center is at 0, 0, is x squared plus y squared equals r squared. And we can do that exact same thing. We'll just move the center. This center, it looks like, is at negative 4, 1. And so the distance from B to C is the square root of x minus negative 4 squared plus y minus 1 squared equals, and that should be our radius. And we'll square both sides. So we get x minus 4, plus 4, the two negatives became positive, squared plus y minus 1 squared equals r squared. And again, that came from squaring both sides. I want you to notice the positive 4 and the negative 1 and how that relates to the center. Our center was actually at negative 4, became positive when we did the formula, and it was at 1, which became negative. And so, how we'll write it is this: x minus h squared, y minus k squared, and the center is at h, k. There's one right there. if you flip to the next page, we'll do a few of these together, and then a few of them will be for checkpoints. For example, number 1, if the center is at negative 2, 5, just like the equation above, I would do x, and the equation says to do minus h, but this is negative 2, so I'm going to do plus 2 squared plus parentheses y minus 5. The equation says to do minus, and that is positive 5, so we'll leave it as a minus, squared equals 5 squared. You can also write the 5 squared as 25. I'll leave number 2 for you to do as a checkpoint. We'll do number 3. When it's on a graph, we have to figure out what the center is. Looks like negative 3, comma 2 is the center, and we also need to figure out the radius. Looks like that is 3. So we'll say the equation is, let's write it down here, we'll say x plus 3 squared plus y minus 2 squared equals 3 squared, and of course 3 squared we can write as 9. And I'll leave number 4 as a checkpoint for you. And then on 5, we'll sketch the graph. Looking at the equation, at the center, the x value must be 0 because we didn't add or subtract anything from x, and the y value must be 2. Now remember, 9 is not the radius. This was the radius squared. And so to find the radius, we need to take the square root of 9. So the radius is actually 3. So let's find our center, 0, 2. Now to graph this with the radius 3, what I like to do, let's just go up 3, and over 3, and down 3, and over the other way 3. And it doesn't have to be beautiful, but you can just make a quick sketch of a circle. And that's it. And if you could finish number 6 as a checkpoint, we'll see how you did.